the black borrowers that are now mad at the banks. Black borrowers are mad at the banks. Now, they're saying Wells Fargo, Navy Federal, all of these things, right? Wells Fargo, Navy Federal, and everything like that. Well, before I deep dive into it, let me just play the video for you guys to give you an update, to give you a general idea of why black folks are mad. And then we're going to have a conversation.
And exclusive reporting shows that Navy Federal Credit Union has the widest disparity in conventional mortgage approval rates between white and black borrowers of any major lender. This is the nation's largest credit union. It serves military members, defense personnel, veterans, and their families.
But guess what? Anybody can go and get an account at Navy Federal.
And CNN's Renee Marsh found that it rejected more than half its black conventional mortgage applicants last year.
But it really is a nice neighborhood, you know.
Baba Tandi, a Kenyan immigrant turned Texas entrepreneur, knew this was his dream home the moment he saw it. It's in a highly sought-after school district that his son so desperately wanted to attend for its basketball program.
So how many homes did you look at before you found this one and said this was it?
We had about 6, but this was the one that we all wanted, and we were all praying to get this one.
Otandi's first choice for his...
If you got to pray in order to, let me just say this. If you have to pray in order to get approved for something, you probably shouldn't do it. If you got to pray for it, Lord, please give me, make sure that we get approved for it. If you got to pray for it, then you probably shouldn't even do it. But I haven't seen the story. I'm going to just go ahead and play it.
His mortgage was Navy Federal Credit Union. It services military members, defense personnel, veterans, and their families, and is the largest credit union in the country.
I was the CEO of my company, so I had a pretty good income.
Your credit was in the 700s. You'd recently sold your house. You had $100,000 for the down payment, which was more than 20%.
Correct. I mean, what more could you ask for?
CNN.
Man, that thing was balling on the low, though. If we just want to keep it 100. If we're going to keep it 100, I can't even find nothing wrong. So you was making a lot of money. You had more than a 20% down payment, and you had a 700 plus credit score. All right, let me see the rest of the video. Let me see the. I'm going to be open and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to see the rest of the video. You know what I'm saying? Jesus.
And reviewed Otandi's financial documents. He even had a pre-approval letter from Navy Federal in hand. But just 2 weeks before closing,
Got a denial. They sent me a letter saying, "We're sorry, but your application has been denied."
Were you stunned, surprised?
I mean, I was stunned. I was shocked. I was hurt.
the denial letter listed excessive obligations in relation to income as the reason.
When they denied is when we came back and said, "Oh man, there's something else going on."
And what?
Wait. Excessive obligations in relation to income. Okay, so just because you have the 20% down payment or just because you got a high credit score doesn't automatically qualify you for approval. One of the things that lenders, I'm not going to say all lenders as it relates to mortgages, look for, but the requirements tightened after 2008. And the reason why the requirements tightened after 2008, and they didn't necessarily do them wrong, but one of the reasons why the requirements tightened after 2008 was because there was a lot of fraud and a lot of scamming and a lot of people were getting approved for loans, but they couldn't necessarily afford the house, right? And so one of the things that they do, and one of the reasons why they have safeguards and, you know, different people that's within an organization to then determine whether or not you can actually afford the home, even if you put 20% down, it doesn't necessarily qualify you. Now, that doesn't say that he's unqualified, but I'm giving context on both sides so we can look at this objectively. If you have a lot of stuff in your name, you got a lot of cars, you got a lot of credit cards or whatever, so on and so forth, you may have a decent credit score, but then you may have a lot of obligations that's tied to it. You may have a decent, because obviously the 20% that he had to put down over $100,000 came as a result of him saying that he had already sold his previous home. So he had a lot of money or a lump sum left over from the equity that he made as a result of selling his previous home. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you qualify for the amount or the type of home that you wanted, right? And again, I don't know his situation, but I also know that they also look at your debt to income ratio. They look at your affordability based off of the fact of how many car notes do you have, how many of this, how many of that. Maybe you had a bunch of stuff in your name or whatever, your mama's car, your sister's car, whatever like that. And so when they say that they was praying to get the house or to get approved, even if you got a pre-approval letter, once they go through their processes and they go through, I forgot what you call them. Gosh, it's slipping my mind right now. It's the people that go through and make sure that you got all of your documents and all of that other type of stuff. I'll remember it a little bit later. But when they go through and they look at your income and then your interest rate and all of the things and your affordability, even if you got 20% down, it does not automatically qualify you for the home. That's what a lot of people don't understand. But anyways, let's continue. I want to see what the rest of the story got to say.
Reason.
When they denied is when we came back and said, oh man, there's something else going on.
And what did you think that something else was?
Discrimination.
But it wasn't just a Tondi. Thousands of other Black applicants were also rejected. According to a CNN analysis of federal consumer protection data, last year, Navy Federal Credit Union only approved 48%. That's less than half of its Black applicants for conventional home mortgages. White borrowers were approved more than 75% of the time. It's the biggest gap among the top 50 lenders. The data also shows Navy Federal was more than twice as likely to deny Black mortgage applicants than white ones, even when different variables, including income, debt, property value, and down payment percentage, were the same.
I feel validated at one point, but also I feel a bit of anger because...
Where did they find this guy from? And why did they... Because I need to know... How did they know that he was Black is one of the things that I'm trying to figure out.
It shouldn't be happening.
Was this his name?
2 weeks after Navy Federal rejected him, another bank approved a Tondi for a mortgage. Navy Federal Credit Union denied CNN's request for an on-camera interview. In a statement, it said it is committed to equal and equitable lending practices.
I'm trying to understand what the problem is. Okay, so, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Let me look at the rest of the show before I make my own conclusion. And then I'm going to drop the link in the chat after I read the super chats.
An analysis does not account for major criteria required by any financial institution to approve a mortgage loan. That includes credit scores, which are not public. Navy Federal declined to provide additional data. We asked Navy Federal why Bob Otondi's loan was denied, but they declined to comment, citing member privacy. CNN's analysis does not prove discrimination, but it does show dramatic racial disparities in who Navy Federal rejects and approves for conventional mortgage loans.
The Black-white homeownership gap and the Latino-white homeownership gap today are both wider than they were in 1968 when we passed the Federal Fair Housing Act.
Lisa Rice has spent decades as a fair housing advocate. She says the disparities in Navy Federal's lending data are alarming and an extreme example of a bigger problem.
It's definitely a larger systemic issue. And we know that we have a long history of redlining and a long history of lending discrimination in this nation. Well, all of that data that is sort of tainted.
I'm trying to hold back till I get the entire gist of the article.
With bias is being used to develop the credit scoring systems.
We got the house, thank God, and we moved on. But what about the ones who are denied? What about the ones who now can't get their own dream house? It's something that's going to affect the generation all the way down to their kids.
Well, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which oversees consumer lending, says that they do not comment on specific institutions, but they do conduct their own investigations to ensure that banks and credit unions are following fair
I'm about to drop the link in the chat.
lending practices, Jake.
What should people do if they think they have been discriminated against?
Well, you have your local housing and urban development, as well as the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Those are two agencies in which you should file a complaint if you feel you've been discriminated against. I've had people reach out to me since we filed this story and said, should we avoid putting any demographic information on our documents? And the downside of that is that we then no longer have that data to track like we did with this story today.
Fascinating stuff. Renee Marsh, thank you so much.
Fascinating stuff because, in my opinion, it's all BS. It's all BS. All right, so I got a couple different points that I'm going to make, and then I'm going to drop the link in the chat for y'all to be able to say whatever it is, or I'm going to pin the link to the chat for y'all to say whatever it is that y'all want to say. Number one, my first thing is we don't have all of the details as to why they rejected anybody or why they're rejecting anybody, right? And you can't use numbers and say, well, 77 or 70 something percent of white people versus 50 something percent of black people are getting approved, and so it's a big gap or anything like that. You can't do that. And the reason that you can't do that is because each individual situation is different. How do we know that disproportionately more black people wasn't trying to scam, or that they have a greater debt to income ratio, or they had lower overall scores, or a lot of different other things? There's so many factors that can go into it, but that's not even my main problem. I don't care about that. That's irrelevant to me. The other side of it is, why do you give a F? Look, man, it reminds me of, and again, I'm open to being wrong, so I dropped the link in the chat for y'all to be able to hold me accountable if you think that I'm wrong. It reminds me of people that go into a store and say, well, they discriminated against me because they thought that I was trying to steal, or they wouldn't let me buy a belt, or they wouldn't do this, or they wouldn't do that, so on and so forth, right? And my thing is always, why do you feel obligated to do business with people who you feel like is not willing to do or want to do business with you? For me, that's an opportunity for me to take my business elsewhere, or it motivates me to do my own thing so that I can then justify my purchases with people that actually want to do business with me. Listen, I'm so motivated, and I'm so much of a hustler, and I move a little bit differently than everybody else. I'll pin the link to the top of the chat. That I genuinely don't care, and I'm cool with people discriminating against me. Because then that means if I'm truly qualified, then somebody else want to do business with me. I'll give you an example. I know this is an extreme example, but it's just something that just popped up on the top of my head, right? My first choice in car that I was about to purchase, because a lot of y'all know that I just purchased a Porsche, and I'm going to drop that video on the Anton Daniels channel either this week or next week, as soon as it get edited. My first choice was actually a G63. I was going to buy a G-Wagon, right? And I'm buying it for my business, and it's a lot of changes that we making going forward in 2024. So I anticipated buying a G-Wagon, but every single dealership that I called, and as a Mercedes customer, as a person that actually, I bought my S-Class. My S-Class isn't even 2 years old. It's like 1.5 years old, I believe, or something like that. As a Mercedes customer, I'm like, man, this should be easy. So I go and I called, they didn't have any here in Michigan. I called a dealer in Akron, Ohio, and then I called one in Miami because I'm going to be in Miami next week, right? And so I called and I'm like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I want to get a G63 or whatever. And they like, oh, man, it's going to be a wait or whatever. Oh, man, but we might have one coming in for you. And the reason that I called Florida was because Florida be having them. California be having them. Florida be having them. Michigan be a little tight on their inventory because we don't buy as many, or we don't have the market for it as much as they may have down in Florida. So I called down to Florida. And plus Miami is a second home for me. And so I called down there and they said, but, we putting a $50,000 premium on all G-Wagons. They said we putting a $50,000 premium on G63s, and we putting a $25,000 premium on 550s, on G550s, right? I'm like, I don't want to pay that. I don't want to pay $50,000 over asking, and I'm paying for it because they was already mad at the fact that I wasn't financing, right? And so they like, well, we putting premium on all of them, and we mainly selling them for Florida residents. I'm like, I got a residence in Florida, whatever, so on and so forth. But it was like they was trying to put me through too many hoops in order to go and acquire the car, right? Because they knew that they had the capacity to be able to sell it because it's a hot truck, and so they got kind of like a waiting list for it. Same thing in Michigan. If I was to get on the waiting list for it, it would take 2 years, $50,000 additional above the MSRP. Same thing in Ohio, so on and so forth, right? And so that's just the thing that Mercedes dealers, not Mercedes-Benz the company, but Mercedes dealers, and they need to get that stuff under control. And so I said, you know what? Why would I go where they tolerating me like they doing me a favor in order to buy the car that I have money to buy, instead of just going and going where I actually like the vehicles and I really, really enjoy my Porsche. I've been enjoying my Porsche. I got a Taycan that I've had for about 2 years now, and I've really loved that car. I mean, it's my favorite car in the fleet so far. And so I called Porsche and I said, yo, I'm looking for that new 2024 Cayenne, because that was it was like 1A and 1B. I said, the 2024 Cayenne, y'all got one? I called Porsche in Ann Arbor. They said, yeah, we got something for you. I said, is it beautiful? They said, Anton, we know exactly what you want. They got the red interior, this and that, so on and so forth. I said, cool. This is what I called them yesterday. Today, they said, listen, you ain't even got to come into the dealership. We going to do everything electronically. They just sent me the documents. I just signed it. I wired over the money earlier this morning. They said, we going to have it delivered to you. No overcharging, no none of that other type of stuff. They gonna deliver it to me. I ain't gotta go through the halls. I ain't gotta pay an extra $50,000 in order to do it. And to be honest with you, I'm saving myself probably about another $150,000, because the Cayenne, it's a little over 100, and then the Porsche, the G63, it's a little over 200,000. Plus, I would have had to pay an additional $50,000 over it just to be able to get it, right? And it's like, why would I overpay you for the privilege of you selling me a product that don't even make sense? And so I went with, and it was a reality check for me, because it brought me back into the space. And I'm like, man, I just saved myself $150,000, and I'm gonna throw that money over into the market anyway. It was a reality check, and it was just like, I'm not going to pay you for the privilege of doing business with you. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to go where I want to do business. I don't feel obligated. You don't owe me to do business with me. That's your choice as a business. I don't owe you the privilege of giving you my money. And so I'm generally going to be more loyal to the place. And I called the same dealer that I bought my other Porsche from. I'm going to be loyal to the space that actually wants me to patronize them, and is it going to accept my business? The same way that he went over and he decided, okay, I'm not going to go with Navy Federal, I'm going to go with somebody else. Guess what? They're going to sell your mortgage anyway. Whoever it is that you got a mortgage through, they're going to sell your mortgage within 5 years to a different company, and you ain't going to have no choice over where they give your mortgage over to anyway. Right? So my point is like, why are y'all so desperate to give your money to people if you feel like, which I don't believe that you even being discriminated against, but let's say, for example, you are. Okay, cool. We'll go where it is that they want to do business with you, or make the adjustment, right? I don't feel like I need to do business with any bank anymore. Once I got to the point to where I was beyond banks, I'm not even financing with banks no more. I'm not financing houses with banks. I'm just going to build it out of my own pocket, and I'm going to become the bank. I'm going to become the thing that I want to see, and then I'm going to be the one that's doing the discriminating as far as who I want to do business with. You know what I'm saying? So people need to get out of this, specifically black culture, in my opinion. And again, I'm open to being wrong on this. This is my opinion. People need to stop feeling like somebody owes them to do business with you. This is the same thing that y'all asked for and then y'all complained about when it came to segregation. First you said, oh my God, I want to be a part of white people. I want to be able to move into your neighborhood. I want to do this and do that. And so they said, okay, we'll come in. And then now in 2022 and 2023, when you ain't getting your way, you saying, oh, Martin Luther King led us wrong. He said that he might have been leading his people into a burning house. We should have did differently. Man, you got a choice to do whatever it is that you want to do when you want to do it. You don't have to live here. You can live anywhere you want in the United States of America if you got the resources to move over in there. They don't have to do business with you. They don't have to patronize you. You don't have to patronize them. If you want to do something differently, then make an adjustment. You don't have to go to that particular college. You don't have to do business with that particular bank. Go where it is that you can do business. And if you don't like the system, then change it and be different, right? Make the sacrifice so that your kids can benefit off the fact that they don't have to do business with a bank. You don't have to get a mortgage. And it's certainly you don't have to get it through them. So I don't need any justification through Navy Federal. I'm not interested in doing business. I don't have an account with Navy Federal. I'm not tripping off of Navy Federal. You see what I'm saying? I'm the bank. I'm the bank. You can't complain about not being a part of segregation and then complain about the fact that you're a part of segregation, because then that just means that you're running in the victim Olympics. You're going to complain either way about your circumstance because the only thing you care about is feeling good instead of solving for the problem. I don't need anybody to come in and fix my neighborhood. We're going to cut the grass. We're going to make sure that we prevent people from coming into our neighborhoods. We're going to call the police when the people come over here and they litter. We're going to make sure that we put speed bumps up. We're going to make sure that our roads are straight. We're going to walk our kids to school. We're going to get around the clock neighborhood watch. We're going to make sure that our neighbor is taken care of. We're going to check on each other. We're going to make sure that we do all of the things. The community organization and the community watch was never dependent on the police. The police was supposed to be after the crime had already happened, but how you prevent it is being able to make sure that your stuff is conducive to what it is that you got going on. Sherwood Forest in Detroit has always been one of the most prominent neighborhoods inside of the city. They've never experienced the type of crime that the rest of Detroit have. They've always had their own security. They always had their own neighborhood watches. They always took pride. You knew when you drove down Sherwood Forest that you wasn't going to pull the same shit that you was pulling over in the rest of Detroit. You can gentrify your own neighborhood. You can bring up your own property values. You don't have to wait for nobody to save you. Y'all waiting for a savior? You waiting for somebody to fix you? You want somebody to give you a loan? You want to be equal to the man? You want to make sure you got the same opportunities, that you going diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though you didn't get the same grades? You want to feel good about yourself. You want the same thing. You want the same. Then when you can't fucking afford the house, and when you get your shit foreclosed on, you're going to be blaming it on the banks. You know what they blamed on? You know what's the funny thing? The reason why I wasn't mad at 2008 is because it was a market correction. And the funniest part about it, even though the banks were supposed to be held accountable for what it is that they did, nobody forced your ass to go in there and apply for a loan that you couldn't afford in the first place. Nobody told you to go out there and get that 707 horsepower Hellcat. Nobody told you that you was obligated to get a new car. Nobody told you that you had to go and apply for something or finesse for it, or that you deserved a PPP loan. Nobody told you to do it. You walked in there, you signed the paperwork, and you bought it yourself, and you made yourself available to it. So whose fault? Who deserves equal responsibility to it? That's the same conversation we having with relationships. Stop blaming the man for everything. When you chose your baby daddy, you knew that nigga wasn't shit, and you still decided that you wanted to lay down with him and have children with him, and now you blaming him, only him, on the fact that he not paying child support when he wasn't paying child support for his other two kids when he got with you. We told you to marry before you carry, but you had to open up your legs. Why? Because everybody else was doing it, so why should I be held accountable for it? You need to take control of your own life and stop blaming everybody else for your problems. I don't give a fuck if Navy Federal got a 0% rate of approving black people. Guess what? I'm not worried about Navy Federal. I don't need them. I don't need Navy Federal. Give a fuck if you redline me. I don't plan on selling my houses anyway. You need me to approve you to get in my house to even be able to have a place to live. Now what? Now what? How the tables have turned. You calling me, asking me, and vetting me and asking me whether or not I could approve you so that you can become one of my renters. How about that? I'm the lender. When I just did, literally 2 weeks ago, when I gave all of that money out to the Patreon members every single year in order to fund their businesses, I don't need nobody. I don't need you. I don't need no institution. The reason why we interview is to vet out whether or not it's a good fit in both ways, meaning that I got recruited to come and work at your company. I didn't ask, I didn't apply for your company. You recruited me, and now I'm interviewing you to figure out whether or not it's going to be a good fit. That's how you turn the tables around. It's a mentality. I don't go where I'm tolerated. I had to check myself and say, why the fuck do I want to have to do a business with these punk ass dealers that's trying to charge me 50% over asking price for what? I don't even want it that bad. I like the Cayenne better. Now they're going to deliver it to me, and they happy to have my business. And I ain't got nothing bad to say about them because they just doing business according to the demand that they got. I can't blame them for charging $50,000 over it when people are willing to pay it. I'm just not. I'm unwilling to pay it. Now what? And everybody goes away happy. And I don't need anybody. I got my car, I got my insurance, I wired over the money as soon as the bank opened this morning. We good. Everybody is happy. I'm not looking to get you to try to do business with me based off of identity politics. Fuck you. Everybody not gonna subscribe to your channel. Cool. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go that much harder for the people that rock with me. Shout out to the Chasers. Link is in the description of this video. I go that much harder for the people that love me. I'm sorry, I ain't mean to curse. Sorry, the church, Anton. Thank y'all for correcting me. I appreciate y'all. This is why I love y'all. Y'all gonna correct me. I'm gonna go that much harder for the people that love me. I never understood why people gave more incentives to people that wasn't even rocking with them in the first place to try to get them to come to their channel. I'd rather spend more time and more energy towards pouring into the people that's been supporting me this entire time. The Yockers, the Kojaks, the Tamouts, the Daniels, the Ashes, the Osriels, the all of the people that's been rocking with me for an extended period of time. I give all of my incentives to the people that's been with me. I ain't trying to recruit people to be a part of this. They should want to feel obligated to try to get in instead of me trying to recruit you to be. I hated companies that always gave discounts to the new customers. Give it to the customers that's already been rocking with you and been loyal with you for the experience. I do it for you, not for them. I do it for you, not for them. I ain't worried about what everybody else is talking about. I'm worried about what we got going on and what we building from scratch. That's who I pour my resources and my donations and my gifts into. Let them stand on the outside wishing that they could be a part of something great. Stop wishing for somebody to want to be a part of your organization, chasing them up, licking them up. I want to be a part of your sorority. I'll let you take a dump on my chest. I'll let you haze me. Why would you want to be a part of an organization that's looking to embarrass you in order to qualify you as to whether or not you'll be a good follower? I'm not looking for followers. I'm looking for future leaders. I'm not looking for followers. I'm looking for future leaders. You could never get me to join a fraternity because I was never interested in trying to qualify myself and prove myself to a bunch of people as to how I can add value and pay your fucking dues. What you mean? Anything that I've ever done, I've always looked to add value first. You're going to see the value that I have first. We're going to reciprocate and we're going to build each other up. I'm not looking for anybody that's not looking to be better than me. I'm looking for future leaders, not people that can follow me off a cliff. I don't want you to follow me off a cliff. I want you to see me crashing the fuck out and then grab me by the shirt and say, Anton, don't fall off a cliff. The same way that y'all do in the chat all the time. Y'all do it all the time. Y'all call me out. Y'all say, Anton, don't do no story on that one. Anton, I don't want you to do no interview with that one because they toxic. Anton, make sure you protect your brand. Hey, don't say nothing about Anton. I see y'all fighting on my behalf, going to different people's chats, coming at people. I be having to tell my people, hey, don't go after that person. Let them be. They about to crash out because y'all putting pressure on these motherfuckers. That's what we do over here at the Chasers. We don't wait for people to give us permission. We ask for forgiveness. It's different. Hey, forgive my people from going over there and trying to destroy you. Nigga, you mentioned the wrong one. Remember who you talking to, big dog. We don't do it the way that the world do it. We not looking for validation. We looking for appreciation. Because we know the value that we bring into the world and we know we can take over any space. We just not finished building up yet. We haven't realized our greatness yet. Man, don't get me started, bro. You know me. Y'all about to turn this into a Wednesday night. I don't need nobody. The only thing that I need is my 2 hands, my 2 feet, and I will build it from scratch. If it take me 10 years to build it out the mud without any kind of financing from a bank, I can do that. I'm willing to sacrifice and do that. I don't need anything. Now, can we do business if it makes sense for the both of us? Sure. But I don't feel like I need you. I'm not going to qualify for you. Do you qualify for me to be able to give you my business? If not, then I'm discriminating against you, not the other way around. If I don't go to your business, then you don't have no customers. What y'all so worried about anybody else thinking? What you care? I know Navy Federal wouldn't approve us. Y'all weird to me, bro.